President Trump is expected to unveil his sweeping plan for reciprocal tariffs tomorrow. And while many details are still unclear at this point, Trump says his tariff plan will be inspiring.
It's a rebirth of a country because how we could have afforded to do what we did. We help everybody, and they don't help us. The term I like best probably is the liberation of America. It's a liberation of this country because it's incredible. Look, we have $36 trillion in debt for a reason, and that accumulates over a long period of time. So I think what you're going to be seeing over the next couple of days will be very inspiring to a lot of people. They're reciprocal. So whatever they charge us, we charge them, but we're being nicer than they were. We have a lot of countries, friend and foe. I always say friend and foe, but the friend in many cases is worse than the foe. But we're going to be very nice. Relatively speaking, we're going to be very kind.
Some top Democratic senators are expected to force a vote today on a resolution that would eliminate President Trump's tariffs on Canadian imports. The resolution, led by Senator Tim Kaine, would end the emergency declaration President Trump declared in February, citing fentanyl trafficking and illegal immigration. The vote could be a true test for Republicans. Senator Rand Paul has already indicated he supports the measure. And according to Politico, Senator Susan Collins plans to back the resolution as well. Senator Thom Tillis may also vote in support. The resolution would only need a simple majority to pass in the Senate, but it's not clear whether it would get enough support in the House. Gene, let's talk about Liberation Day, which has a lot of different contexts. Different countries celebrate it for different reasons. It has history, but in this case, is there anybody who thinks there will be a positive outcome to these tariffs? And Susan Collins, that makes a lot of sense because Maine, on the border with Canada, is really suffering right now.
Yeah, that's right. Maine, it used to get thousands and thousands of tourists across the border from Canada who are not coming now because of this administration's antipathy, its hostility toward our Canadian neighbors, which is no one understands except Donald Trump and I guess Peter Navarro, and they're the only ones who think that Liberation Day, in quotes, is going to be a positive thing for the United States. The only people I can find who really believe that, the stock market is not the economy, but look at how unsettled and how pessimistic the stock markets have been over the last few weeks in anticipation of these tariffs, which by every economist's light, every respectable economist says this is just insanity. This makes absolutely no sense. It's going to needlessly raise prices for Americans. It's going to start a trade war that the Wall Street Journal called the dumbest trade war in history. But here we go, unless, of course, the president decides to pull the rug out from everybody once again at the last minute and say, oh, well, we'll forget about this, we'll postpone them. He likes to do that. He likes to play Lucy in the football.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal's editorial board continues this morning, as Gene mentioned, its steady criticism of these proposed tariffs. The new piece titled "A $6 Trillion Trump Tax Increase." The Journal writes this: financial markets have the shakes as President Trump prepares to launch his next big tariff salvo on Wednesday. And nerves are appropriate since Mr. Trump's chief trade advisor, Peter Navarro, is boasting about what he says will amount to a $6 trillion tax increase from the tariffs. In the real economic world, a tariff is a tax. If you raise $600 billion more a year in revenue for the federal government, you are taking that amount away from individuals and businesses in the private economy. By any definition, that is a tax increase, and the $600 billion figure would be one of the largest in U.S. history. Americans are being told to accept the pain of higher prices, a slower economy, and shrinking 401k balances in the name of Mr. Trump's project to transform the American economy into what he imagines it was like in the McKinley era of the 1890s. The "I couldn't care less" quote, Charlie Sykes, that the president gave to Kristen Welker over the weekend when she raised the prospect of Americans having to pay more, a lot more, for their cars because of these tariffs, saying he couldn't care less. How is this playing in a place like Wisconsin?
Well, I have to tell you that, if you go to coffee shops and truck stops in the Midwest, you won't find many people saying, hey, I wish we could go back to the McKinley years. I wish we could be more like the 1890s. This is not what people voted for. And it's really interesting that he's being hit from the right, from the Wall Street Journal, which is pointing out that he is about to impose unilaterally one of the largest tax increases in American history, if not world history. And think about that in terms of what conservatives used to claim that they were in favor of, what Republicans used to say about massive tax increases. And yes, it's all a show with Donald Trump, and he may impose it one day, he may impose it another, but he can't have it both ways. He can't count on the revenue from the tariffs at the same time that he is, on and off. So what we're seeing here, of course, is just tremendous uncertainty. Small businessmen, investors who just simply do not know how to plan. And uncertainty is really deadly to an economy because nobody knows, what to invest in, how to plan, what their prices are going to be. And so you're seeing this showing up in consumer confidence as well as the stock market. So again, I don't think a lot of people had on their bingo cards that in the first 100 days of the Trump administration that he would push this country this far toward a word that we hadn't heard in years, stagflation. Whether we have a recession or not, you're hearing more and more people talk about stagflation, and that was not what was on the agenda last November.
Charlie Sykes, thank you. Always good to have you on. We appreciate it. And